Welcome to Getting It Right by the New Zealand Society of Genealogists. I'm your presenter, Sarah Hewitt. For the notes that accompany this presentation and the other Getting It Right learning resources, please see our website www.genealogy.org.nz.
In this presentation, we're going to look at searching. There's quite a few tips and tricks on making sure you find all the records that you're looking for. The internet has made life so much easier. We're able to find original documents out on the internet. We're able to send away for documents that we have to pay for without needing to send money orders or lots of letters. And for things out in the real world, we can find out where they're located. However, a key thing we need to know about anything that we're looking for on the internet is that it had its origins on a piece of paper, and that at some point somebody has gone to the effort of putting that piece of paper, or at least the words on it, into a computer. And this is where we might strike a few problems. I've shoehorned them into the categories of spelling, writing, and reading. I'm going to go through each of them and give you some examples of how they can be problematic, and then at the end I'll give you the solutions. So let's start with spelling. Now, we've all grown up knowing that there's the right way, the wrong way, and the American way of spelling things. Consistency of spelling is a modern phenomena, and therefore the further back you go, the less consistent people are likely to be in their spelling. So I was looking for the family of George and Elizabeth Cates in the parish of East Clarendon in Surrey. In the index, I managed to find 3 of their children. Turns out there are actually 8. Why couldn't I find the other 5? Well, because of the way their names were spelt. They came up as Kates, which you kind of hoped they would be, and Kate, which is not really that surprising. This one, well, was a little bit different, but when I got to this one, I was wondering what on earth they were doing. So it shows that even the simplest of names can come up with some of the weirdest spelling variations. Let's move on to writing, and this is what was written down. What is written down, especially when people are illiterate, depends on what the person who's doing the writing hears. If you have a situation where the person doing the speaking and the person doing the writing are from 2 different cultures or 2 different geographical areas, you're going to come up with problems. Here's a quick example from a branch of my family in Norfolk. How would you say it? Did you come up with something that might sound like this, more? Well, one of the spelling variations I've seen for this name is, and I stopped wondering how to say it then and just look at it because I can't figure it out. So do be aware, regional accents and also foreign accents relative to the person writing it down can produce some interesting results. And the last one is reading. The person who's transcribing the records, what they read off the records, because sometimes the handwriting is going to look like this. And I've been known to take a moment and look at it and go, ah, isn't that just beautiful? Because I know the next document I look at is going to look like this. Some of the more eagle-eyed of you out there are probably saying, hold on a second here, Sarah, that's in Latin. Actually, the Latin words on here, like matrimony and filius and filia, they're repeated down the page, and they're actually quite easy to read. But the names and the dates, well, they're a bit harder. I can make out a George, but that's about it. So, how do we get around all of these problems? Well, the first one is don't dismiss a record because the name isn't spelled how you expect it to be. Have a look around the website that you're searching in and see if there's any guidance on how to search it. It will let you know whether there's any sort of fuzzy searching allowed. Some databases do not do fuzzy searching. Use different databases. For example, the birth, death and marriage records here in New Zealand are on 4 different databases, each of which has a different way of searching them. So if you can't find the result on one, you might find a result on another. And at the end of the day, if you have the option, go and browse through the records. Look at the images and see what you can see, because you'll recognize your family's name a lot easier than some of the transcribers will. This brings me to this quote out of Sherlock Holmes. Sometimes in our genealogy we only find one record, and because we've only found one, that must be it. And that goes with the quote here, that once you've eliminated everything, what's left must be it. But it doesn't always hold true in genealogy, because we can't always be sure that we've eliminated everything. We need to go and have a look further into the records and find out, was a record made? Sometimes, such as passenger lists between Australia and New Zealand, there is no record. If it was made, does it still exist? Now, you might have the parish records for a certain period of time, but others may have been lost because the mice ate them. All records may have been destroyed deliberately or through war. But if you have ascertained that it still exists, the next question is, where is it? Not all records are online. And even if you think you've got all the records online, you need to go and double check that they are all there. Which leads us to the next question. Has it actually been indexed? Not all records that are online have been indexed. They fall into three broad categories. Indexed and linked to an image, which is easy, you just click on the link and off you go. But a lot of images are indexed and not linked, or not indexed at all. The solution to both of these is then to go and browse through the records. If it's been indexed, it'll be easier because you'll know where to go and look. But if it hasn't been indexed, you may need to look through quite a number of records before you find the one you need. And a last point, have you searched by subject? There are a lot of records out there where searching by name is not going to find you the result. But if you search by subject, you might find a set of records that you can then search for by name. These include shipping records. They may just be for your immigrant ancestors, but if you had someone in the merchant navy, they might be on there too. Occupational records. There's a huge amount of information out there if you had a family member who belonged to some sort of professional organisation. And lastly, locational records. Have you looked for records in the area where your family lived? You might find a book on the history of Christchurch, like I did once in the library, that had not only a story about my family that I'd never heard, but a picture. That was a pretty good find, but I wouldn't have found it if I hadn't been looking by subject. So to summarise the key points of this presentation, searching is compounded by the issues with spelling, writing and reading. You also need to be aware that if you're only finding one record, are you actually searching all the records? And lastly, have you searched by subject? This will help you find other records that searching by name will not. Thank you for joining us. The next presentation in this series is New Zealand sources. I'll see you then. For further information, see our website www.genealogy.org.nz, and we'd like to thank the Wellington Masonic Club for their support in making these presentations. See you next time.